Hello everyone, welcome to another video. This is part 15 of my Gateway API for Kubernetes series. Today I want to show you how we can use Envoy as our Gateway API running inside our Kubernetes cluster. In the last two videos, I already showed you how I can use Nginx and traffic. Especially with the traffic, I didn't have much luck with the documentation and it was quite hard to get it working. So today with Envoy, I'm super happy, the documentation is great, and out of these three, this is my favorite. So the plan is, I'm going to give you again a quick introduction into the Envoy Gateway, and then we're gonna have a demo where we create a new Kubernetes cluster, then deploy the Envoy Gateway, and have a test application to see if everything works as we want it to. So as I said, with Envoy Gateway, the documentation is really good and also it's really easy to install. Additionally, Envoy provides a sample app, so I can just execute one command, it automatically downloads the app from GitHub, and I have everything set up ready to test. So for beginners, I think this is amazing because you can just deploy it with 2 clicks or 2 commands. And then you can figure out what is going on, what is working. If you break something, you just delete it and redeploy it and you continue learning. What's also great is when we deploy the Helm chart for Envoy, it will also automatically deploy the CRDs, the custom resource definitions for the Gateway API. The Gateway API is not part of the core Kubernetes and therefore we have to install it to be able to use the Gateway API. With the Nginx, 2 videos back, we had to deploy them first, then to deploy Nginx, but here everything comes with the Helm chart. Envoy also offers additional features like all the other tools. With Envoy, we have, for example, backend and client traffic policies. This means we can configure how the traffic should flow. Then we can also configure security policies. We have observability. This means we can see what is going on in our cluster and with our applications. And lastly, we have rate limiting. Again, there will be a link in the description down below to the Envoy Gateway documentation. If you're interested in these features, please take a look because today I only want to show you how you can install the Gateway API and how to get it set up inside your cluster. Before I start the demo, what I haven't mentioned yet, but I've mentioned in the last videos, is the reason why I want to set this up is I want to be independent from cloud providers. In the first couple videos of the series, I used the Azure Application Gateway for containers, but this means I had a vendor login to Azure. With this setup, I deploy it inside my cluster and I don't have a login or any dependencies on outside parties at all. This means if I take my AKS cluster and I deploy it on AWS, then it will work the same way because I just deploy a Helm chart and I don't have a dependency on Azure. Additionally, I don't have to pay for any cloud services because I don't use any. But the downside is I have to take care of, for example, the monitoring of my gateway load balancing. This means if I have a lot of traffic, I have to scale out my gateway, and also if I have a lot of traffic, my gateway needs a lot of resources, I have to probably pay for more resources for my cluster because I will have to scale out my cluster. But for learning purposes, I think this is the perfect way to get started with the Gateway API because we'll see it's just deploying a Helm chart and it's already working. And with other services, for example, the Azure Application Gateway for containers, it takes half an hour and it's really complicated to get started. Now, enough of the theory. Let's switch over to the terminal and I will show you that's actually very easy to set up. All right, here in the terminal, let's define a couple of variables first. So this is the name for my AKS cluster, the location and resource group. As I said before, you can deploy it completely independently of any cloud provider. I'm just an Azure guy, therefore I use AKS for my Kubernetes cluster, but you can use any cluster you want. It could be K3S or kind on-premise or on your machine. Could be AWS, Google, whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Since I'm an Azure guy, I just use Azure. So once we have the names for our cluster defined, let's define a couple more names for our gateway. So this is going to be the namespace we deployed into, the name of the gateway, and the name of the gateway class. Lastly, we provide a namespace and the name of our test app. And for the test app, I'm using traffic. Who am I? Therefore, I name it traffic. With the variables set up, let's create a new resource group. Once the resource group is created, we're going to deploy our AKS cluster inside this resource group. As you can see, I just use AC AKS create, provide the name and the resource group, and don't configure anything else. I just keep it as simple as possible to just set up a basic Kubernetes cluster. If you're interested in the demo, there will be a link in the description down below to my GitHub repository where you can find all the demo code from today, so you can just copy paste it if you want to follow along. For now, the deployment is going to take around 5 minutes. I'm going to stop the video here, and once the cluster is deployed, we will continue with the gateway setup. My AKS cluster is deployed, and the last step now is to download the credentials so we can access it. So now we're done with the setup of our Kubernetes cluster. The next step is to install Envoy, and we can do this easily with a Helm chart. Here I provide the version, then the name of the namespace, and I want to create the namespace because it does not exist yet. As you can see, it's very simple. I provide basically no information, just deploy the Helm chart. Now it should take only a couple seconds, hopefully, to pull down the image and start it. Once it's started, we can take a look at the gateway and the gateway class. If you follow the demo on the documentation page, the next step would be to download the sample app. This will download an application and also an HTTP route, and you will have everything set up already. But I want to set it up myself. I want to have more control over what's running inside my cluster. But before we do this, as you can see, the Helm chart is now deployed. Let's take a look at what gateway we have and what gateway class we have. So if you take a look at the kubectl get gateway, we can see no gateway has been deployed with the Helm chart. This means we have to deploy it ourselves. If we now take a look at the gateway class with kubectl get gateway class, we can also see no gateway class has been deployed. With the demo app or sample app, I think it's called, everything will be deployed automatically. But I want to have control over it. We're going to create it ourselves. So first, we're going to create our gateway class. So let me paste this code in. What you can see, it's very simple. So the kind is gateway class. We provide a name. And then what's important is, as the controller name, we provide gateway.envoy proxy because we're using the envoy proxy. Then we're going to apply this gateway class. Next, we're going to create our gateway. And this is basically the same gateway you have seen in all the videos before. So if you're new to the gateway API, I would recommend you take a look at the playlist you will find in the description down below. There are already 14 videos where I go over all the features step by step and how to set it up. For now, this gateway, we can see the kind is gateway. We provide a name and a namespace. Then also the name of the gateway class we have just created. And for the listener, we provide one listener that's listening on port 80, that's HTTP, and it allows routes from all namespaces. This means we can deploy our test application in a different namespace, and we can route to this test application. So let's apply also this gateway. Then we're going to wait a couple seconds because in the behind the scenes, the gateway and the gateway class need to be linked. and it might take up to 1 minute. So let's take a look at our gateway, and then we can see if it's already ready. So we do again a kubectl get gateway. What we can see here is the program is set to true. This means it's already ready to use. So the setup was successful. If programmed is false, then you have to wait a bit longer. If you already waited a couple minutes, then something went wrong. Usually it is the link to the Envoy class, to the Gateway class. If you have used a wrong name, then it won't be able to link, and therefore the programmed state will stay false. But here you can see our class is Envoy. That's exactly what we configured before. And additionally, we can see here we have a public IP address. This is because I'm using Azure, and Azure gives me a public IP address. We're also going to use this address to test our test application. If you take a quick look at the Gateway class, there you can see our name is Envoy, and accepted is also true. If this accepted was false, then you would also know something went wrong. The last step is now I'm going to write this public IP address into a variable. I just get it out of the gateway, and if you take now a look at this variable, we can see it is the same public IP address we saw before. That's already everything we have to do to set up Envoy Proxy as our Gateway API. Next up, I'm going to deploy the test application, and then we can just test our gateway. As I said before, I have a couple videos where I go over everything step by step. So I just quickly show you the test application, but I don't go too much into details. So here we're going to deploy a new namespace. Then inside this namespace, we have a deployment with one replica. The name is the I think it's traffic-deployment or traffic test app, something like this. As an image, I'm using who am I from traffic because it will tell us information like the host name, so we know that we reached our test application. Lastly, we have a service. This service is of type cluster IP. This means we can't access it from outside the cluster, but since we go through the Gateway API, we will be able to reach it. It's listening on port 80, and it will route our request to the container or the pod on port 80 as well. It's a fairly standard setup, so I'm going to deploy this. And while the test application is being set up, we also have to create an HTTP route. This HTTP route, as you can see here, the kind HTTP route, in the same namespace as the test application. Then we have a reference to the name of our gateway and the namespace it's deployed into. And we match every path. This means no matter what we enter, this rule will apply, and we're routing to our test application. Then let's apply this as well. While the HTTP route is being set up, let's take a look at our test application, if everything has been started. So here we can see we have our cluster IP service with an internal IP, but no external IP. And our one pod is running, so everything is up and running, and now we should be able to access it. To access it, I'm just doing a curl with the public IP we had before. And I'm using the parameter use basic parsing, so I don't get an error message because I'm using HTTP. Or actually, I think it's a warning. If I execute this, I just get the result. Here you can see the HTTP status code is 200, so everything worked. We can see here the host name is traffic deployment. That's the pod of our test application. And this proves that we went through our gateway over the HTTP route to our test application. So everything works as intended. And we've also seen it only takes a couple minutes to set it up. And now we are good to go to learn, to test, even to use it in production, whatever we need to do. Alright, this is already everything I want to show you today. Today we have seen that with Envoy Proxy, it is very easy. Just deploy a Helm chart and then you could either use the sample app, or if you follow my demo, then you have to create a gateway and a gateway class. Once this is set up, you're ready to use the gateway API. After the setup, we created a demo application and an HTTP route linking the gateway to the test application. And that's it. We were able to access our application, and it took maybe 10 minutes, the entire setup. So it's very easy. And also it didn't cost us anything. We had our cluster already running. We don't need additional resources. So it's super easy and cost effective to get started. And especially if you want to get into the Gateway API and learn how it works. Since this is already part 15 of this Gateway API series, I have shown you basically everything I wanted to show you. I think I'm going to make one more video to recap everything. But if you're interested in the Gateway API, how it works, take a look at the description. You will find the playlist with all the videos where I go through it step by step, how to set up, for example, the application gateway for containers if you use Azure, but then also how the routing works, how you can use the cert manager to automate the TLS certificates, how to do deployments through pull requests. We also have security for the web application firewall. So if you're getting started with the Gateway API, I hope this is a great source for you to learn how it works. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you liked the video, like it, share it. If you didn't like it, also tell me what you didn't like it. And I hope to see you next week with another video.